The moment that changed everything happened on a Tuesday morning in February when my courtroom doors opened, and in walked someone who'd spent years building a career entertaining children, then spent even more years being exposed for allegedly grooming those same children. Colleen Ballinger, 37 years old, YouTube star with over 8 million subscribers, creator of Miranda Sings, the character that made her famous. A woman who'd recently been at the center of one of YouTube's biggest scandals when multiple former fans, now adults, came forward with allegations that she'd sent them inappropriate messages when they were minors, had inappropriate relationships with underage fans, and created a toxic environment that exploited vulnerable teenagers. She walked in wearing what looked like a carefully chosen outfit, meant to project innocence and vulnerability. A soft pink cardigan, minimal makeup, hair in a simple ponytail. She was performing even now, playing the role of misunderstood creator rather than alleged predator. Behind her came 3 attorneys, a crisis PR team that had been working overtime since the allegations broke, and surprisingly, her parents, who sat in the gallery like this, was all a terrible misunderstanding their daughter was bravely facing. But sitting on the other side of the gallery, looking far older than her 22 years, was someone who represented the real victims of Colleen's alleged behavior. Sophie Chen, 22 years old, former superfan who'd been 14 when she first connected with Colleen online. Sophie had been one of the young fans Colleen had messaged extensively, had invited to private meetups, had developed what she called a special friendship with. Now an adult, Sophie was one of several former fans who'd gone public about inappropriate behavior, and 3 months ago she'd encountered Colleen at VidCon, the massive YouTube convention in Anaheim. When Sophie tried to confront Colleen about the grooming allegations, Colleen had attacked her physically in a convention center bathroom. The charges were assault and battery, witness intimidation and harassment. According to police reports and witness statements from 4 other women who were in that bathroom, Colleen had recognized Sophie from her public allegations online. Instead of walking away, Colleen had followed Sophie into the bathroom, locked the door and attacked her, while screaming that Sophie had ruined her career with lies, that Sophie was part of a coordinated attack by cancel culture, that Sophie should be grateful for the attention Colleen had given her as a nobody teenager.
Security footage from outside the bathroom and witness statements painted a clear picture. And now Colleen stood in my courtroom, clearly believing her carefully crafted public response, her ukulele video that had become infamous. Her narrative of being a victim of false accusations would protect her from consequences. What I did in the next 40 minutes didn't just shock the courtroom. It sent shockwaves through the YouTube community, sparked massive debates about creator accountability, forced conversations about the grooming of fans, and proved that in America, when the system works correctly, no amount of subscribers, no victim performance, no ukulele songs about toxic gossip trains place anyone above the law when they commit violence. If you believe YouTube fame doesn't give you the right to assault the people you allegedly groomed, that playing victim doesn't work when you're the perpetrator, that judges must defend young people even when facing family-friendly content creators with millions of followers, hit that subscribe button right now because what I'm about to do will show that even beloved YouTubers face justice. Ms. Ballinger, I began. You're charged with assault and battery, witness intimidation, and harassment. How do you plead? Her attorney stood immediately. Robert Chan, a lawyer who specialized in internet defamation and reputation management. Your Honor, my client pleads not guilty. We need to address what's really happening here. My client is a beloved children's entertainer who has been targeted by a coordinated cancel culture campaign. Former fans who are now adults have made unsubstantiated allegations to gain attention and sympathy online. When my client encountered one of her accusers at a professional convention, she attempted to have a private conversation to understand why she was being targeted. That conversation became heated, but my client never intended violence. This is about a frustrated creator trying to defend her reputation against false accusations. Mr. Chan, your client followed someone into a bathroom, locked the door, and physically attacked her. That's not a conversation. That's assault. Ms. Ballinger, how do you plead? She stood slowly, and when she spoke, her voice had that same performative quality from her infamous ukulele apology video. Not guilty, Your Honor. I understand how this looks, but you have to understand the context. For months, I've been dealing with allegations that are completely false. People who used to claim they loved me, who begged for my attention, who said I changed their lives, suddenly they're saying I groomed them. It's not true. I was just being a kind creator who cared about my fans. And when I saw Sophie at VidCon, I just wanted to talk to her. To understand why she was lying about me. I never meant to hurt anyone. I set down my pen. Ms. Ballinger, we'll hear the evidence. Ms. Park, please present it. The prosecutor, Jennifer Park, approached with her tablet. Your Honor, we have witness statements from 4 women who were present in the bathroom during the assault, security footage from outside the bathroom showing Ms. Ballinger following the victim, and extensive documentation of prior inappropriate communications between Ms. Ballinger and multiple underage fans, including the victim. May I present them? I nodded. The lights dimmed, and the first piece of evidence appeared on the screen. It was a timeline of messages between Colleen and Sophie, starting when Sophie was 14 years old. The messages began innocently enough. A fan reaching out, Colleen responding warmly. But then they escalated. Colleen asking Sophie personal questions about her body, her romantic life, her family problems. Colleen sending Sophie photos of herself in various outfits asking which looked better. Colleen telling Sophie she was special, different from other fans, that they had a unique connection. Then came the messages where Colleen invited Sophie to private hotel room meetups during tour stops. Messages where Colleen told Sophie not to tell her parents about their special friendship. Messages where Colleen discussed her own romantic problems in inappropriate detail with a 14-year-old. Messages where Colleen asked Sophie to send photos. The prosecutor explained that these messages had been provided by Sophie and verified by forensic analysis. Similar patterns had been found with at least 6 other former underage fans. The messages painted a clear picture of an adult creator cultivating inappropriate relationships with minors. Next came the VidCon footage. Security cameras showed the convention center bathroom hallway. Sophie entered alone, looking at her phone. 30 seconds later, Colleen appeared, looked around to see if anyone was watching, then followed Sophie inside. The bathroom door closed. What happened next was documented by witness statements. The prosecutor read them aloud. 4 women had been in that bathroom when Colleen entered. They described Colleen immediately approaching Sophie, her face twisted with anger. They said Colleen started yelling about how Sophie had ruined her career, destroyed her reputation, turned the internet against her. When Sophie tried to leave, they said Colleen blocked the door, literally standing in front of it. Then, according to all 4 witnesses, Colleen grabbed Sophie by the shoulders and shook her violently while screaming. You were nothing before me. I made you feel special. I gave you attention when nobody else cared about you. And this is how you repay me? By lying to everyone? By destroying everything I built? The witnesses said Sophie was crying, trying to get away. They said Colleen then slapped Sophie across the face, hard enough that the sound echoed in the tiled bathroom. When other women tried to intervene, Colleen turned on them too, shouting that they were all part of the mob, all part of cancel culture, that none of them understood what it was like to have millions of people hate you for things you didn't do. Security was called. By the time they arrived, Colleen had finally let Sophie leave the bathroom. She was still standing there, crying herself now, telling the other women that she was the real victim, that everyone had turned against her unfairly, that she'd never done anything wrong. The lights came back on. The courtroom was silent. I looked at Colleen, whose face showed something between defiance and desperation, like she still believed if she just explained it the right way, everyone would understand. Ms. Ballinger, you just heard evidence of years of inappropriate communications with underage fans. You heard 4 witnesses describe you attacking Sophie Chen in a bathroom. You heard yourself yelling about how you made her feel special, gave her attention. Do you still maintain your innocence? Her attorney stood quickly. Your Honor, the messages my client sent were friendly communications with fans. Many creators build relationships with their audiences. The context has been twisted by people looking for something inappropriate where none existed. As for the VidCon incident, my client was emotional after months of false allegations. She reacted poorly, yes, but this wasn't assault. This was a frustrated woman trying to defend herself against lies. Mr. Chan, your client sent private messages to multiple 14-year-old girls asking them to meet her in hotel rooms and not tell their parents. That's textbook grooming behavior. And your client physically attacked one of those former fans while telling her she was nothing before Colleen gave her attention. That's assault combined with the mentality of an abuser. Your Honor, my client maintains those friendships were appropriate. She's a kind person who cares about her fans. She's devastated that her kindness has been weaponized against her. I turned my attention to the defense table. Ms. Ballinger, stand up. You mentioned in your response to these allegations, you released a video. A musical video, where you played a ukulele and sang about how these were just toxic gossip trains. You made light of serious allegations. You performed your way through accusations of grooming minors. Tell me, do you think this is all entertainment? She stood, and I could see her struggling between her performance instinct and the reality of being in a courtroom. Your Honor, that video was my way of coping. When you're being attacked by thousands of people online, when your career is being destroyed, you have to find ways to process the pain. I used humor because that's what I do. That's who I am. I'm an entertainer. But I never meant to minimize anyone's feelings. Ms. Ballinger, you compared serious allegations of grooming to gossip. You sang and danced while young women were sharing traumatic experiences they had with you. That's not coping. That's mockery. Sophie Chen, please approach. Sophie stood slowly and walked forward. Up close, I could see she was tiny, maybe 5 feet 2 inches, and despite being 22, she had the look of someone who'd been forced to grow up too fast. She wore simple clothes and no makeup, and her eyes held the weariness of someone who'd been fighting to be believed for months. Ms. Chen, tell me about your relationship with Colleen Ballinger. She spoke softly, her voice carrying the careful tone of someone who'd told this story many times and been called a liar just as often. Your Honor, I was 14 when I discovered Miranda Sings. I was lonely, awkward, didn't fit in at school. Colleen's videos made me laugh. I commented on everything she posted. One day, she replied to me. I was so excited. Then she sent me a direct message. We started talking regularly. At first it seemed innocent. She asked about my life, my school, my interests. She told me I was smart, funny, mature for my age. She said I wasn't like other fans, that we had a real connection. When you're 14 and lonely, hearing that from someone you admire, it feels like everything. It feels like finally someone sees you. But then the messages got weird. She started asking personal questions. About my body, about boys, about things that made me uncomfortable. But she always framed it like she was just being a cool older sister figure, someone I could trust with anything. When I hesitated to answer, she'd say things like, I thought we were close, or I guess you don't trust me after all. So I'd answer, because I didn't want to lose her attention. Tears filled Sophie's eyes. Then she invited me to meet her when her tour came through San Francisco. She said to come to her hotel, that we'd hang out, just us. She specifically said not to tell my parents because they wouldn't understand our friendship, they'd think it was weird. I knew that meant it probably was weird, but I was 14 and I thought I was special. So I lied to my parents and went. Nothing explicitly sexual happened that night. But the way she looked at me, the way she touched my hair, my shoulder, the way she took photos of us together and said we looked like we could be sisters, it all felt wrong. I felt uncomfortable the whole time. But I also felt special. That's the confusing part. She made me feel seen and uncomfortable at the same time. This continued for 2 years. Messages, meetups, her telling me I was mature, different, special. She'd share details about her romantic life, her marriage problems, things no adult should share with a teenager. She'd ask me for advice about adult situations I had no framework to understand. And the whole time, she'd remind me this was our secret friendship, that other fans would be jealous, that my parents wouldn't get it. When I turned 18, the messages slowed down. Then stopped. It was like once I wasn't a kid anymore, I wasn't interesting anymore. That's when I started realizing what had happened. That's when I started seeing other fans posting similar stories. That's when I understood I'd been groomed. She looked at Colleen directly. Last year, I went public with my story. It took everything I had. I knew people would call me a liar. I knew Colleen's fans would attack me. And they did. But I did it because I didn't want other kids to go through what I went through. Then at VidCon, I saw her. I wasn't looking for her. I was there with friends, trying to reclaim the convention that used to be about joy before she made it about trauma. I went to the bathroom, and suddenly she was there. She locked the door. She got in my face. She told me I was nothing before her, that she'd made me special, that I was ungrateful. She grabbed me so hard I had bruises on my shoulders for a week. She slapped me, and the whole time, she kept saying she was the victim. That I'd ruined her life. Not that she'd hurt me when I was a child. Just that I'd ruined her career by telling the truth. The courtroom was completely silent. Several people in the gallery were crying. Colleen's parents looked uncomfortable. I looked at Colleen, who was staring at the table, tissue pressed to her face, but I noticed the tissue was dry. The tears, like so much else about her, were performance. Ms. Ballinger, you heard Sophie's testimony. She described years of inappropriate contact starting when she was 14. She described you grooming her, isolating her from her parents, meeting her secretly. Then she described you attacking her for going public. What do you have to say? Her attorney tried to stand, but Colleen waved him off. She stood herself, and when she spoke, her voice was thick with performed emotion. Your Honor, I never meant to hurt Sophie. I genuinely cared about her. I cared about all my fans. Maybe I was too friendly. Maybe I crossed boundaries I didn't understand existed. But I never had bad intentions. I was just being kind. And now that kindness is being called grooming. It's not fair. Ms. Ballinger, you told a 14-year-old not to tell her parents you were meeting her in a hotel room. You know that's wrong. Every adult knows that's wrong. I thought I was helping her feel less alone. She was struggling, and I wanted to be there for her. By meeting her secretly in hotel rooms? By asking about her body? By sharing your adult romantic problems with a child? She had no answer for that. Just stared at me with that same desperate look. Ms. Ballinger, here's what I see. I see an adult woman who cultivated relationships with vulnerable teenage fans. I see someone who used her power and fame to make those teenagers feel special while isolating them from their parents. I see someone who, when called out by those now adult victims, made a mocking video with a ukulele. And I see someone who, when confronted in person by one of those victims, responded with violence. Here is my finding. You are guilty of assault and battery. 4 witnesses confirmed you physically attacked Sophie Chen. You are guilty of witness intimidation because you attacked her specifically because she'd gone public about your behavior. You are guilty of harassment. And while I can't charge you criminally for grooming in this case because the statute of limitations has passed, that behavior is part of the pattern that led to this violence. Her face went pale. She looked at her attorney desperately, but he had no magic words to fix this. Here is your sentence. For assault and battery with witness intimidation enhancement, 2 years in county jail. For harassment, 1 year to be served consecutively. Total of 3 years in custody. The courtroom erupted. Her parents were crying. Her attorneys were objecting. Colleen herself looked genuinely shocked, like she'd never once considered prison was possible for her. Additionally, I'm ordering you to pay $750,000 in restitution to Sophie Chen. This includes compensation for the years of grooming that led to trauma, the assault, and the continued harassment through your public responses. I'm ordering you to stay at least 500 feet away from Sophie and to remove all content referencing her from your platforms. And I'm recommending to YouTube that your channel be permanently demonetized due to the pattern of grooming behavior. Colleen found her voice. You can't do that. YouTube is my career. I have millions of subscribers. I have a family to support. Ms. Ballinger, you should have thought about your family before you groomed children and then attacked one of them. Your subscribers don't change the facts of what you did. This is cancel culture. This is mob justice. I'm being punished for being successful. Ms. Ballinger, you're being punished for assaulting someone you groomed when she was a child. That's not cancel culture. That's consequence culture. Bailiff, take her into custody. Officers approached. Colleen looked at her parents desperately. They were crying but made no move to help her. As the officers handcuffed her, she was crying real tears now, not performed ones, the reality finally breaking through. She looked at Sophie one last time. I'm sorry. I really thought I was helping you. I never meant. Sophie said nothing, just watched as Colleen was led away. Within hours, YouTube exploded. Her millions of fans were divided. Some claimed she was innocent, railroaded by cancel culture. Others said finally, accountability. The grooming allegations resurfaced everywhere. Other former fans felt empowered to share their stories. The YouTube community was forced to reckon with creator power dynamics and the protection of young fans. 2 months later, YouTube permanently banned Colleen Ballinger's channel, citing violations of their child safety policies. Her appeals failed. The platform issued a statement about protecting minors from predatory behavior, even by popular creators. Colleen Ballinger is currently serving her sentence. Sophie Chen received her restitution and has become an advocate for victims of online grooming. She speaks at schools about recognizing predatory behavior from influencers. If this story moved you, subscribe. Share it with anyone who needs to understand that YouTube fame doesn't excuse grooming, that family-friendly content doesn't mean family-safe behavior, that young people deserve protection from creators who exploit them. Colleen Ballinger made a ukulele video mocking her victims. I gave her 3 years and proved that in America, even beloved children's entertainers face justice when they harm children.